Welcome to the town of Stillwater, Oklahoma, home of the Oklahoma State University Cowboys and a population of about 45,000 people. And I have a question for you. Who feeds this 45,000 people? Who feeds Stillwater, Oklahoma? That may sound like a rather strange question because we all know that there's no one person, there's no committee or agency who's in charge of bringing food into Stillwater. Instead, most of us work in some non-farming occupation. We earn money and then we buy it from other people who bring food to Stillwater to sell. And so there's a big market for food in Stillwater, and that market is comprised of lots of different types of sub-markets. For instance, there is the market for affordable, convenient, and delicious food of great variety that's served by the 5 grocery stores in Stillwater. There's a market for niche products like some of the small natural food stores we have. For people who want local produce, there's a food cooperative of Oklahoma that delivers food once a week in the Stillwater, and there's a farmer's market that meets 1, sometimes 2 times a week. And for those who want food that's ready to eat right now, there are a lot of different options. Just like any town, there are lots of restaurants, like the McDonald's that's behind me. And for a small town, we have a surprisingly large number of food trucks, like the Cafe Bella food truck right here. And so if you ask me who feeds Stillwater, I'm going to say it's markets that feed Stillwater. And to show you what I mean by markets, I'm going to take you to my favorite grocery store in town, Consumers IGA. And in there, we're going to see the great bounty that modern agriculture and markets has provided us. So welcome to my favorite grocery store. Here you can see the great success of modern agriculture in the produce section and the food aisles we're going to visit. There are bananas shipped all the way from Guatemala to Stillwater citizens. They have eggs produced in Indiana, pork from hogs raised in North Carolina. This store has access to peas that were grown in New Jersey, and these peas were frozen immediately after harvest, which means once you defrost these, it's almost like eating the pea straight from the plant. And refrigeration allows us to consume fresh peas any time of the year. Shrimp from Thailand. Bread made from wheat that might have been grown right here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. If the grocery store manager had to acquire all of the food sold in the store directly from the farmer, there would be much less variety and most of the products would be priced higher. The only way this store manager can bring you food from around the world is if markets bring it to him. Just like the only way a Thailand shrimp farmer can sell the shrimp she catches to you, an American, is if she sells it on a market. This is why we say markets feed Stillwater. If we instead will mark that farmers feed Stillwater, we would be ignoring a long line of markets and business people who played an equally important role in providing you with a diverse assortment of high-quality, affordable food. In fact, for every dollar you spend on food, only about 16 cents goes to the farmer to compensate them for their contribution. The rest goes to food processors, wholesalers, and retailers, and the like, suggesting that what happens to food after it leaves the farm is more important than what happens on the farm. The store manager didn't need to go to Guatemala to talk to the people who produce these bananas. He didn't need to know the people. Instead, he buys them from a wholesaler. And so there's a long line of people in between the grocery store manager and the farmer. And that long line of people represents a lot of different markets. These eggs come from Indiana, but the store manager didn't have to visit the farmer to talk to him about how much eggs he would purchase. The store manager may never meet the North Carolina people responsible for producing this pork. Our New Jersey peas, the store manager never went to New Jersey to talk with the farmer or maybe even the distributor about how much he would buy and how much the citizens of Stillwater would need. And our shrimp from Thailand, it was distributed by a Kansas City distributor. So the store manager didn't need to negotiate with Thailand shrimp farmers for his purchases. He only had to talk to the distributor in Kansas City. And if our bread was made from Oklahoma wheat, then the store manager still would have bought the bread from the same place he bought all the other bread, which may have used wheat from other states, perhaps even another country. We could produce our own bananas in Stillwater, Oklahoma, but we would have to do it in big, expensive greenhouses. It makes more sense for us to buy bananas from Guatemala because they're better at producing bananas. Their region is more suitable to it. they have a comparative advantage in bananas. But we have a comparative advantage in something too. We are really good at producing wheat in Oklahoma. And so while Guatemala could produce their own wheat, it makes more sense for them to import it from us. They're good at producing bananas. They do it cheap, so we buy bananas from them. We're good at producing wheat. We can produce it cheap, so they buy it from us. So what we're essentially doing is trading the wheat that we produce with Guatemala for the bananas that they produce. And by both of us producing the goods that we're best at, the goods we have a comparative advantage in, we're producing the most food for everyone. Now, of course, we don't put together a committee of people, of Oklahomans, to go to Guatemala and hammer out a trade of bananas and wheat. Markets facilitate those trades. The Guatemalan banana farmer produces bananas and sells a lot of it on the world market. Then we go and buy it on the world market. Likewise, we produce a lot of wheat, we sell it on the world market, and Guatemalans go to the world market and buy wheat there. And so markets facilitate those trades between different regions. And that's why I say it's that markets feed Stillwater, Oklahoma. Markets feed the world, and does a good job of it. Even if all the regions of the world had the exact same soil, climate, and resources, making each region equally suited for the production of any good, they can still benefit by trading with one another. In this course, we will learn that when a farm, or any business for that matter, is able to specialize in one or a few goods, they are able to hone their skills and purchase expensive machinery that boosts the productivity of labor. A small diversified farmer with 50 acres of wheat and 30 cows could never afford combines and expensive feeding equipment. Instead, some people specialize in wheat production and produce a lot of it with combines, and others manage large feedlots where they feed thousands of head of cattle. The U.S. produces far more wheat than they can consume, and it's because of their large output that they can produce wheat at such a low price. We are able to do this because the wheat we do not consume is easily exported to the other countries. So without trade, there is less specialization, less technological innovation and development, and less food. There is even specialization in the tasks used to produce a single good. In a modern prosperous nation, everywhere you look you see specialization in trade. There are some people who specialize in producing canned spinach. There are some people who specialize in making the aluminum that makes the can. There are some people who specialize in making the labels that they put on cans. There are some people who specialize in producing chicken. Some people specialize in producing the corn that was fed to the chicken. Some people who specialize in making the plastic wrap that the chicken is carried in. And some people specialize in making the refrigeration that's used in refrigerated trucks that lets chicken come to us safely from distant locations. In fact, trade is what allows citizens of the modern world to accumulate so much wealth. To illustrate, suppose that you are Robinson Crusoe, alone on an island, and everything you consume you have to produce yourself. Even if you know how to produce everything from grilled fish to pharmaceuticals, the fact that you have to spend so little of your time devoted to each good means that you will never become adept at producing any one good. There isn't enough time to practice and polish your skills, research new productive technologies, or build machinery and tools that improve your productivity. Though humans are the most intelligent of animals, we only prosper in groups. Alone on an island, we stand less chance of survival than a bird or even a dumb crab. Each of you will go out into the world, specialize in a particular job, and will use the money you earn to buy goods produced by other people. Imagine how long it would take for you to personally produce all the goods you consume in a day. One lifetime is not enough. We are prosperous because we specialize in trade. But this is no recent insight of my invention. It was best said by the French economist Bastiat in the 19th century. From his 1850 book, Economic Harmonies, quote, "It is impossible not to be struck with the measureless disproportion between the enjoyments which this man derives from society and what he could obtain by his own unassisted exertions. I venture to say that in a single day he consumes more than he could himself produce in 10 centuries. If you ask most people why food is so cheap today, they are likely to remark on the technological innovations in agriculture, and they would be correct, but they are likely to neglect to add that those innovations are made possible through markets. Most technologies tend to be useful only on larger farms. The automatic milking machines we will see in this course greatly improves the productivity of labor on dairy farms, but is unprofitable on farms with just a few cows. Driverless tractors are a blessing for farmers with thousands of acres, but they are too expensive to use on a 50-acre farm. As we have seen, large farms and thus better technologies are only desirable if regions can trade with one another. Technology doesn't fall from the sky like manna from heaven. Most of the time they are the deliberate attempt of an entrepreneur to make money. That is why the government awards entrepreneurs who create new technologies with patents, giving them a monopoly in the sale of that technology for a number of years. Indeed, the first U.S. patent was awarded to Samuel Hopkins in 1790 for his new way of acquiring potash from the ashes of burnt plants. So I've taken you to my favorite grocery store in town. Now I'm going to take you to the farmer's market here in Stillwater. And remember, in the grocery store we saw how trade, technology, it brought in food from all around the world to one location in Stillwater. There's great benefit in that. But some people want the opposite of that at times. They want a system where the food consumed in Stillwater is grown right here in Stillwater, and they cut out that entire distribution system. Well, why would they do that? There's a lot of reasons. Sometimes the food is just better at a farmer's market. It's higher quality. Sometimes people think the low price of food in a grocery store has hidden costs that aren't reflected in the price. If food is produced far away from the consumer, they don't know how it was raised. They don't know what type of pesticides were used. They don't know what steps were taken to manage soil erosion. They don't know how the animals were treated. And so when people feel uncomfortable being very distant from their food, sometimes they want to get closer to their food by coming to a farmer's market and being able to meet the actual people who raise their food, shake the hand of the person, ask questions about the farm, often seeing pictures about the farm. And so remember, we asked who feeds Stillwater? We said it's markets that feed Stillwater. And it's largely consumer behavior that determines which of those markets. Currently, most of the time people get their food from grocery stores, which means that most of the markets providing food for people are markets that connect people. Remember the Thailand shrimp, the bread from Oklahoma, the bananas from Guatemala. Most of who feeds Stillwater are those big markets, and those farming techniques are going to be using advanced technologies on big specialized farms. But the more people come to a farmer's market like this, the more food will be produced locally using more traditional methods, less technology on smaller and diversified farms. Now, there is no right or wrong answer as to who should feed Stillwater. What we ask is who does feed Stillwater, and we've seen that. It's markets. And so for us to understand modern agriculture, we have to understand the markets that connect Stillwater citizens with bananas from Guatemala, and markets that connect Stillwater citizens with asparagus grown right here in town.